Hello and welcome back to another presentation from Citrus County Mosquito Control. My name is Tarolyn and I'm the public education specialist here. And we just recently did a bunch of videos about beekeeping. And I thought to myself, hey, we need to get a video up about mosquitoes, right? So this is a presentation that I commonly give to organizations who present a presentation, which you can request on our website, by the way, if you're interested in having me come speak to your group in person. And so this is the presentation that I usually give, and it's really informative, really great. We're going to talk about the biology of mosquitoes, because to understand how we control them, you really have to understand their life cycle. When I explain all those things, you understand why we do it the way that we do. We have a very integrated approach. So we use several different types of controls to control them during each stage of their life. So we're just going to hop right in if my presentation will work. Okay, so a little bit about us, just to give you some background about who we are, what we do, why we're here. So we are an independent special taxing district, and we have been operational since 1953. We were actually voted in by the citizens of Citrus County to be a working program back in 1952. So we are completely separate from our local Board of County Commissioners, BOCC. So because of that, we have our own Board of Commissioners, and there's 3 members on our current board. They serve 4-year terms. Our current chairman is Joe Adams. He's pictured here at the top. Our secretary vice chairman is AJ Green. He's down at the bottom left. And then our treasurer, who was just recently elected this past election cycle, that is John Sino. And he's over on the bottom right. And we have about 25 to 30 employees at any time throughout the year, depending on if we're fully staffed or not. And we're on about 10 acres of land here in Lecanto. So we're on 491, where they just did that big road widening project. We've got an office building, a shop. We've got our chickens, which I'll get into more detail later if you've not heard of our Sentinel chickens. We've also got hangars and storage facilities for all of our chemicals that we house. This is an aerial view of what our property looks like. So over here, this is our office space, and then we've got our shop over here that houses all of our vehicles and equipment. We've got our chemical storage over here, and then our helicopter hangar over here. There's our helipad, and Rob, our IT specialist, actually took this aerial photo with his drone, so thank you, Rob. And then back here we have our Sentinel chicken coop, and yeah. So why do we have a mosquito control program in the first place? Well, none of us like mosquitoes, right? We don't like getting the itchy bites, and they're annoying, especially when you're trying to go outside in the evening, and over the summer you're trying to have a backyard barbecue, or you're trying to go fishing, and they make things really unenjoyable. But not only that, they're also disease spreaders of bloodborne diseases and pathogens that can make us really, really sick. So things like West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis virus, Eastern equine encephalitis virus, those are all common viruses that are found locally, that we try to keep a lookout for. Dengue, chikungunya, Zika, yellow fever, malaria, those are all more like exotic diseases that can be brought in, though, by infected travelers who are visiting Florida. So this is not an exhaustive list. There's definitely plenty more that I've not listed here, but these are the heavy hitters, the ones that we really, really are on our radar all the time. So we don't want diseases like this coming into our county and making our citizens sick. But not only our citizens can get sick, also our animals, our livestock, right? We're heavily dependent on agriculture here. Our economy and our livelihoods are very tied into agriculture. So things like St. Louis encephalitis, West Nile, Eastern equine, those can all affect our bird and horse populations, as well as people. And one that I don't even have on my list on here is a heartworm, dog heartworm, which can infect our cats and our dogs. So livestock, animals, birds, and now our pets too can be infected by mosquitoes. So it really is a huge problem that they can spread these diseases, and we want to prevent those as much as possible. We are here for public health. And speaking of public health, mosquitoes are actually the most deadly animal in the entire world. They kill more than 1 million people a year, which is crazy to think about, right? This is why I love sharing this graphic because you think of scary animals like sharks and crocodiles and snakes or hippos or whatever as being the most scary, dangerous animal, but it's actually a little tiny mosquito. And that just always blows my mind. And it really puts it into perspective when you show the numbers like this. And it's because of those diseases that they can spread. So to put it into more perspective, the mosquito species distribution worldwide is about 3,600 different species. And, here in the US, luckily, we only have about 176, 180 of those. In Florida, we've got about 80, which I think this number has actually bumped up to about 90 now. But here in Citrus, we only have to worry about between 45 to 50 of those at any given time. Sometimes we get new introductions of new species here in the county that we record. So, that it's kind of a range of numbers, but really only a handful of those are ones that we really focus on in our program, actively trying to prevent because those are the disease spreaders. So here's the mosquito life cycle, and it's, very basic. It's a metamorphic life cycle. So just like caterpillars turn into butterflies, mosquitoes do the same thing, except they're in the water when they do this. And they start out their lives as eggs in the water or near the water, maybe in the soil, depends on the type of mosquito. And then they hatch into a larva. So they go through four different growth stages of being a larva, or it's called instars. And then after they grow and eat, they're not infective during their larval stage either. But they turn into a pupa and they swim around for a day or two and then they hatch out into an adult mosquito. And that is when they're going to be able to transmit those diseases, is when those adult females are going out to take a blood meal to lay more mosquito eggs. That is when she's able to pick up those viruses and then transmit them. So if we can interrupt this life cycle, either by preventing them from laying eggs or getting them while they're larvae in the water before they turn into flying, biting adults, then, we can really get ahead of them. And that's a way that we control them. That's the primary way that we control them, is getting rid of standing water sources and getting them while they're larvae before they hatch into the adults. So here's a close-up of what the eggs look like. They're very tiny. These are hard to see. You're probably never going to see these out in the wild. Um, but this is what they look like under a microscope even. So they're very hard to control as eggs. What we normally do, the best way to control them, is to just prevent sources for them to have anywhere to lay these eggs. And a big way to do that is to get rid of any standing water. So around your house, if there's buckets, bird baths, things like that, that mosquitoes could lay eggs in, dump it out, and then they won't have a place to lay them. So here are some examples of where those places might be. So things like pet bowls that we leave outside so our animals can get water, tree holes around our property that we might not even be aware are out there. Um, and bigger places too, lakes, rivers, um, ponds, drainage retention areas. All they need is a bottle cap full of water to survive in. So as you can imagine, over the summer, when there's lots of rain every single day, tons of nooks and crannies can fill up with water that you might not even know about, and mosquitoes are gonna live there. So here's a close-up of what the larva looks like. They're just like little creatures that swim in the water. Here's the pupa, and so the adult is going to be forming inside of there. There's another view of the pupa. And in a previous presentation, I had what they looked like swimming in something, but they're just very tall, like small. They're very small little worms that kind of squiggle around in the water. And you might not know that you're looking at mosquito larvae, but if you see anything squiggling and swimming around in your water at home, like a bucket or a bird bath or something outside, dump it out. That's all you got to do. You don't have to treat it with anything, with a product, or a chemical. You just literally have to dump it out, get rid of the water. Those larvae will drown, those people will suffocate, and you won't have any adult mosquitoes flying around you in a couple days. So then, if you don't dump out the water, you're going to get adult mosquitoes that are able to fly around and bite you. And those females, when they're going to take a blood meal to be able to form their eggs, that is when um, they're going to be able to pick up virus and possibly transmit it as well. So that's what she looks like before getting a blood meal and then after. So they are able to fill up with a lot of your blood. And here's a cool little video. Since I'm posting this on YouTube, I don't want to like show a video within a video or possibly get copyrighted. So I'm going to go ahead and link it in the description box below. That way you can check it out. I highly recommend it. It goes into detail about the different types of needles that she has in her mouth that she uses to bite you. And it's really, really interesting. I show it at literally every presentation I give. So definitely check that out. It's only like 5 minutes long. So here are a few examples of different mosquito habitats that we've talked about already, but just so you have a visual reference of those buckets, bird baths, even tires can hold mosquitoes. So every year we actually hold or participate in the county's tire amnesty event. They have a few days out of the year where they will take residential tires from residents to prevent, um, tire buildup, and we do participate in that as well. We set up a few mobile sites for residents to drop their tires off to us, and then we'll take them to the landfill for them, just so we can get some mosquito breeding sources off the streets, right? So if you're interested in that initiative, definitely look out in the Chronicle or on Facebook for when that's going to be posted. That's usually in September, but it's just whenever the county puts on their tire amnesty days. That's when we do it too. So we have found some pretty crazy places that mosquito larvae live in boats that aren't covered in barbecue grill grease catching containers. Wheelbarrows can breed thousands of mosquito larvae. Gutters, that's a place that people don't often think about. If they're clogged up with debris, so you've got a bunch of trees over your house and leaves are just falling in there, that can prevent water flow and create the perfect place for mosquito larvae to live. Green pools as well. So if you're not swimming in them, they're not maintained, mosquitoes will. That's a huge area of standing water. That's a perfect place for mosquitoes to lay their eggs. So you could have mosquitoes in there as well. Above ground pools are really notorious for this. And then bromeliads too. So that's the plant that is pictured here on the bottom left. So they don't look that bad, right? They're beautiful. But they can hold a lot of water that you can't really see with your naked eye. It's down here, in these little crevices. They're very deep too. So they will hold a lot of mosquito larvae. So I usually have participants, raise their hand and tell me, where do you think in this photo mosquitoes might be living? Look for some place that might hold some water. So some notable places in this photo specifically are these pipes over here. So if those are, laying on their sides and it rained and some water got in there, that could definitely hold some water that mosquitoes could live in. To prevent that, I would stand them up vertically and make sure that the water is able to drain out, or just put them somewhere else, maybe in a shed or a covered area where they're not going to come into contact with rain. This bucket as well, it looks like it's already turned over, but if it wasn't, you'd want to turn it over, or even just pick it up and put it in storage or get rid of it, whatever you got to do. But that could definitely be a source for mosquito breeding as well. And this one we already talked about tires, so that's a big one. If they have rims, not gonna hold mosquitoes, but especially unrimmed tires, they're going to hold a lot of mosquitoes. This little lip right here, that could hold mosquitoes, right? Because we talked about how all they need is a bottle cap full of water to survive in. So if that were to fill up with some water, guess what? Mosquitoes could live there. And then this too. So this like crate full of these blankets. Yes, there's blankets and things in there, but if it rained, it would hold water. And even within those little, pieces of fabric, if it held water, mosquitoes don't care. They will live in anything holding water. They don't care what else is in it. And then again, the wheelbarrow. So we could tip this over, lean it up against the side of the building, and make sure that it's not laying flat to be able to hold water. So those are more smaller sites that you would find probably around your house, but these are more larger sites. So obviously people can't tip these over, dump these out, right? So these are places that we're going to be visiting as a mosquito control, and we're going to be treating those places with some sort of product to get rid of the larvae. So we'll go out and we'll do inspections on these types of areas and see what we can do. So things like drainage retention ponds, dumps, wetlands, all of these places could be mosquito breeding areas or places that could hold larvae. And on an even larger scale than that, our whole west side of the county is marshland, right? So Crystal River, Homosassa, there's a lot of protected lands as well. So we're pretty limited on what we can do in those areas. But those are huge places for us to have to control and worry about because there's actually a salt marsh mosquito and they can fly up to 25 miles to find someone to bite. And they're pretty nasty biters. So if they all hatch out at the same time, fly 25 miles inland, and then we've got a problem. So we might not be able to treat that area, but we're going to have to go around with some sort of adulticide treatment or something to get rid of the adults that fly away from that area. So that can be a challenge as well. But if you don't have any of those larger habitats near you, you don't live near a swamp or the marsh, or you're in a neighborhood, it's either you or your mosquitoes that are you or your mosquitoes, you or your neighbors that are breeding your own mosquitoes. So definitely go outside and take a look around these places, see if you can find them. If you're having mosquito problems, if not, call us. We can come out. We might be able to see something that you just weren't able to see or didn't think would hold mosquitoes. Okay, so now that we know about their biology and how we can control them around our houses, what do we do as mosquito control to control them? So a big thing that we do is source reduction. We do service requests. We go out. If people have mosquito problems, we'll go out. We'll help them find areas that they can get rid of standing water around their houses. We do inspections as well. So we've got field technicians who go out all throughout the county and they know where certain swamps are and low areas that hold water, and they check those all the time, every week. We also have a surveillance program, so we set traps and we monitor mosquito populations. We use biological controls in the form of mosquito fish, so they're actually natural predators of mosquito larvae, and we use those as well in swamps and even some unmaintained pools, right, that are green and could hold mosquitoes. We'll put mosquito fish in there. So those are a really great part of our program. And then we do a lot of education and research as well as a preventive measure. I'll go out to schools or adult organizations, who request a presentation. I teach them about mosquitoes. I give this literal exact presentation. I change it up a bit for the schools. I make it more age appropriate, but we also do research as well. So we're constantly testing our products and making sure that what we're using is effective against our mosquito populations. And then lastly, we do have to use chemical treatments. It's just part of the control method. When all those other things aren't enough, there's tons of mosquitoes that we're not ever going to be able to kill them all or get rid of them all, especially over the summer. So we do have to use chemical treatments as well, but we'll talk more about those later on in the presentation. Okay, so here's a look at what our mosquito program looks like. So our technicians have these computers in their trucks and they have maps of our counties and they see all of these different sites. So they know, okay, I have to visit this site, make sure that they don't have mosquitoes, do an inspection. And there's sites like this all over the county. So this is what they see and this is what their job is to go out and inspect these sites and within their zones. They'll also do what's called a landing rate. So they'll stand in somewhere that is a site, that they think might be breeding mosquitoes, or if people are calling in service requests and, they want us to go out and treat, well, we have to find mosquitoes while we're there. So if we can't find larvae, then we need to find the adults. So we'll stand there for a minute. We'll see how many mosquitoes land on us. And if it looks like this, if that many mosquitoes are biting us, then we obviously know that there's a problem and we can do some sort of treatment. Our inspectors are also equipped with ATVs, so they're able to go out in these certain areas, and if they have to do some sort of chemical treatment on the spot, they are equipped to do that with their ATVs. They also have backpacks too, which I don't know if I have a picture of that in this presentation, but they have backpacks too that they use with mosquito larvicide. So this would kill the mosquito adults, this spray, but they can go out and do inspections, and if they find larvae, then they can treat on the spot there too with a larvicide product. Now the mosquitoes are going to eat that, ingest it, and it's going to kill them, and it's a specific target that just kills mosquito larvae. And they also have the ability to bring in larval samples from the field. So we send them out with vials, and then they can collect some larvae, bring it back to the lab, and our technicians will ID them in there and see if they're bad mosquitoes, right? If they're the vectors of disease, then we know, okay, we need to do further treatments in these areas, or if they're just frog biters and they don't bite people and spread disease, then we know, okay, we don't have to waste our resources in this area because they're not going to be a problem. So identification of larvae is very important, and adults as well, but um, moving on. So we are going to talk about our airboat now. So yes, we have an airboat, and we go out on the water. We have two technicians who their job is to go out and inspect water bodies for mosquito larvae, because there are certain mosquito larvae that live within aquatic plants and use them to breathe through the roots of the plant. So they're very cryptic, they're hard for us to find. Normally, mosquito larvae come up to the surface of the water and they breathe, and they're a little bit easier for us to find and detect. But these mosquitoes, they attach to those aquatic plants and they're underwater, so it's very hard for us to find them. But if we do, we are able to send our helicopter out, and Charlotte, our pilot, can perform some sort of larvicide treatment from the air. So she can treat thousands and thousands of acres, way more than we would be able to do on foot with a backpack. So that is why we have our helicopters. And then we also have this cool tool called an A1 mister. So this will actually spray a larvicide product within neighborhoods. So it aims for those container breeding mosquitoes that I was talking about earlier in the buckets and bird baths. Instead of us using a granule to have them eat it and die, it will actually disperse a liquid, like spray droplets, that will dissipate in different containers. And then the mosquito larvae that are in there will come into contact with that, and it'll affect them that way. But the difference is it's still larvicide, but it's a spray form. So this will go around. You might see it in a neighborhood like Beverly Hills or the Highlands, somewhere densely populated where there might be a lot of containers for the product to dissipate in. And then lastly, we do have our ULV spray truck system. We have 4 of these trucks. We don't always use them, all 4 of them, but we do have the capability to use 4 if the season gets really bad, like over the summer. We might send 4 trucks out to different places throughout the county because there are just so many places with bad adult mosquito populations. So that product, as you can see, it mists out of the back. It's a very fine spray droplet that is designed to just come into contact with the body of a mosquito and kill it. So because the droplets are so small, there's such a small amount of active ingredient found or used within this system that if it did come into contact with a larger insect like a moth or a butterfly, it would take a lot more of the product to kill it than it would a mosquito. Another, way that we try to protect pollinators while we're doing this specific type of treatment is we only go out at night. So that's a great benefit. The bees and the butterflies, they're hunkered down for the night. They're not foraging. But that's also when mosquitoes are most active, right? So they're most active during the dawn and dusk period. So if we go out when it just turns dark, then we're able to, get to kill as many mosquitoes as we can at that time, which is the most effective use of our time and our product and our taxpayer money, right? Um, so that's why you might see us around at night. So do all species of mosquitoes bite people? No, right? We talked about how only the female bites, but also only um not all of them bite people and actually spread disease too. So just like us, they have different preferences. They have different, animals that they like to bite. So some only like to bite birds, some only like to bite frogs, and some, of course, love to bite people. So those are the ones that we're worried about. We're not worried about the ones that are biting frogs because they're not going to spread diseases and be a problem for public health. So that's where our surveillance department comes in. They have a super important job. We have, I think, like 20 to 30 traps that we set throughout the county each week. And it's their job to collect the mosquitoes from those sites and come back to the office and look at them under the microscopes and see what they can find. And they identify every single mosquito that they find in these traps because, again, identification of the mosquito is super important because they're all different. And they all look different too. So we can look at them under the microscope and know, like, okay, we're looking at this one that is a container breeder who likes to bite humans. It can spread disease. Okay, if there's 50 of those, that's an exaggeration. But if there's a lot of those in a trap, then we know, okay, when we have to go back to this area, we have to keep doing inspections. We got to find the source that they're breeding in, and possibly do some sort of treatment to get rid of them. So they are, kind of pictured doing their jobs here. And this is Joldy and Jason in the bottom left. They actually just found a new species of mosquito to Citrus County. So that was huge. Jason found the larvae or Joldy found the larvae and Jason found the adults. So that was a great thing for us, right? Because we know, okay, we can be on the lookout for this new species. Um, and hopefully it doesn't spread. But them being on their game, being on top of it, is super, super important. And here's just some pictures of our traps. So this is a CDC trap, and this is what it currently looks like. I believe this is an older model. But that's the main one that we use in our program. It attracts the mosquitoes with CO2 because it mimics a person breathing out. So they think they're going to a mammal or a person, right? Um, and then the mosquitoes get sucked into this fan right here and get pulled down into the net. This is a trap that we set often in neighborhoods because it attracts those container breeding mosquitoes, Aedes albopictus, Aedes aegypti, um, and it's designed to trap those. This one, the CDC light trap, attracts more different types of species of mosquitoes. And then the New Jersey trap, we used to use these a lot in our program, but we phased them out at this point. They just used the light to attract mosquitoes, but they would also attract other types of bugs that we weren't worried about trapping. So we phased those out, and now these are just really, really mosquito specific. And then another part of our surveillance program is our Sentinel chicken program. So we use chickens to test for disease occurrences. So they actually contract St. Louis encephalitis virus, Eastern equine encephalitis virus, and Highlands J virus, West Nile virus. So we know that if the mosquitoes, we test them every week for antibodies to these mosquito-borne viruses. And if those antibodies are detected, then we can spring into action to stop the spread to humans. So they're really like our first line of defense for those viruses. And they don't get sick. We've got about 6 chickens per site at like 10 different sites throughout the county. But they don't get sick. They lay eggs. The homeowners eat the eggs. Um, and then after a year, they retire out of the program, and usually the homeowners keep them or we give them away to somebody else who wants them. And they also don't serve as a reservoir for the virus to replicate and spread to other mosquitoes so if another mosquito bit them after they contracted these antibodies, they wouldn't pick up a virus and be able to spread it to anyone else. So they're really the perfect tool. They're our first line of defense for these diseases. And luckily, we are able to use them for those viruses. They don't detect or contract every virus, unfortunately. But for those few that we can use them for, we're very grateful. And a lot of different programs throughout Florida use Sentinel chickens. Um, And here is Fred and Joldy. They are performing a CDC bottle bioassay. So this is part of that research component that I was discussing earlier. They are constantly testing our products, making sure that what we use is effective against our mosquito populations because we only have two adulticide active ingredients that we can use or modes of action of these pesticides that we could use. So we've got to make sure that we are using those effectively and that our mosquito populations are susceptible to them because insecticide resistance is a real problem. If our mosquito populations become resistant to those insecticides, then we are not going to have anything that we can use to fight them. And that is really concerning, right? We don't want that to happen. So we've got to make sure that we're rotating our pesticides and making sure that we're being good stewards of those. That way, we don't run out of products that we're able to use on them because the registration process is very slow. And, the EPA isn't just, approving things left and right. They go through rigorous processes to approve these products and prove their efficacy. So that's a huge part of our program. This is Ben over here on the right, and he was our summer intern the past 2 years, and he did a lot of these bottle bioassays for us. Okay, moving on to the biological control portion of our program. So we use a lot of mosquito fish. So they reproduce really fast. They are very hardy. They can handle living in swamps or unmaintained pools, and they're they survive really well. And they eat a lot of mosquitoes. I've read that one mosquito fish can eat 100 mosquito larvae a day. So we take them to places like swamps or, these unmaintained pools, and we don't have to go back again, for the season or until people run out of fish, because they eat them all and they don't have a mosquito problem anymore. So this is really effective for us because, if we put them in places holding water, then we don't have to use a larvicide product. They're not hatching out as adults, so we don't have to use the adulticide products. And oftentimes we don't have to go back and keep checking for larvae because the mosquitoes keep them under control, or the mosquito fish keep them under control, which is very, very helpful for us. And we just trap these locally. I don't know, I don't think I have pictures in here, but we have fish traps that we use, and we just trap them from local water bodies throughout the county and just bring them to other places throughout the county. So here's a video of mosquito fish eating the mosquito larvae. They have quite hearty appetites. Okay, and then moving on to public education. So I mentioned I go to schools, I visit summer camps, I do homeschool groups. Um, I've taught, kindergarten through middle school programs, all about, mosquito control, what we do. I bring in samples of the life cycle, and the kids go on scavenger hunts to look for places holding larvae. So it's really, really fun, and we have a good time. But I definitely couldn't do a lot of the programs that I do without community partnerships. The school district for letting me come in and visit their schools. The Citrus County Parks and Recreation, I work with them a lot on different types of adult and kid programs. Summer camps keep Citrus County beautiful, so we work with them on a lot of different beautifications throughout the county, cleanups and things to keep our county looking good and our environment healthy and robust, so we don't have places holding mosquitoes. The Historical Society was a great new partnership. This past summer, we had a whole exhibit about the history of mosquito control, and that was really, really cool. It was an effective outreach program. So loved working with them. The Chronicle, we go to all of their expos, the home and garden shows, the healthy living shows. And we love being able to connect with members of our community at those tabling events that they host. And then the Florida Department of Health as well. So we work with them a lot with our sentinel chicken reporting. We send all of the blood that we sample every week to them. They send us a report. They test all those samples, and they tell us, if we've got antibodies detected in our chicken flocks. They release a report every week too that is open to the public, reporting, those occurrences throughout the state of Florida. And then, of course, if we have somebody who comes in and they're sick with a travel-related malaria case or something, then the Florida Department of Health, we work closely with them on that. Okay, and then lastly, I think this is the last part of our program that I have in this PowerPoint to discuss. So we actually have bees too on the property, and I love talking about the bees with people because the number one question we get is, what do bees have to do with mosquito control? And And then the second question I get is, did the bees eat the mosquitoes? Like, no. Great guess. But no. So we have bees because a few years ago, we've been beekeeping now for I think almost 4 years, and we've had the same hives. I actually need to update this picture because we actually have 3 hives now, which is really great. But we got the bees because, mosquito control, beekeepers, there's a lot of contention between, the products that we use and the way that we apply things. And there's pesticide worries within beekeeping communities about how they affect the bees. So we wanted to show like, hey, we do care about bees, we do care about pollinators, and this is why, and this is how. And also, what a better way to be able to communicate with our local beekeepers than to be beekeepers ourselves. So this really helped put it into perspective for us what their concerns were. And then it helped us be able to better speak with them and be better versed on the topic when we have conversations with them. So now, when people come up to me and they're concerned about their bees dying, I'm like, well, what were your varroa mite levels? And how's your queen doing, and what did you have wax moths, or there could be so many things, like were you feeding them, did they have enough resources, did they have enough nectar and honey and pollen. And so without this experience I really wouldn't be able to explain mosquito control and bridge that gap for our folks without having this experience. So I'm in the Master Beekeeper program with UF. I studied bees and mosquitoes in school. I'm at the University of Florida, so I love this program. I think it is absolutely essential to what we do, even though it doesn't seem that way. At first, you're like, what? Mosquito control has bees, but they really do go together. And our goal is to basically show like beekeeping, pollinating, saving the pollinators, and mosquito control and protecting public health. They can coexist. And I really think we're a living example of that, having bees on our property for 4 years. So some other cool programs of note, every few months or so, I host live Q&A sessions on mosquitoes. I've also hosted them for bees and beekeeping. We also have a beekeeping webinar series that I've put on the past couple of years on Zoom. I've done them live, but I also have them recorded as well here on our YouTube. So if you're interested in beekeeping or checking those videos out, or you want to know more about what I just talked about, you're like, what's a varroa mite? Check out those videos. They're very helpful. Um, and then ticks too. I really want to do a video. I tried to put a presentation on Zoom about ticks, and nobody came, which is fine. I know ticks it's even a harder topic to make interesting than mosquitoes. But I'm gonna try to record this and put this on YouTube as well because ticks are a vector of disease too, just like mosquitoes, and preventing them and protecting yourself from them is just as important. There's a lot of mosquito controls, especially up north, who are also tick control centers as well. They're mosquito and tick control entities. And so we don't do any tick control, but I still think it's interesting information to put out to our public. So look out for that coming hopefully in the future. And it would not be a public education presentation if I did not mention the 5 Ds of protection. So this is Something that's out there that a lot of different mosquito controls share with their members of the public, and that is the 5 Ds. So drain standing water. If you learn nothing else today, drain standing water from your property. That's going to be the biggest help to us and to yourselves, right? So that is going to prevent a lot of those domestic mosquitoes that can spread those diseases. Because we can't make it to everybody's house. We try. If you put in a service request, we're going to come out within a day or two. But we can't make it to everybody's house. So, if you can control them at your house, then we can do our jobs in the swamps and the lakes and other places, those bigger areas, to get rid of the mosquitoes in those places. Dawn and dusk are big ones to remember too. So that is when most mosquitoes are going to be mostly active. So be aware if you're going outside or going to be outside for a prolonged period during these times. And then also defend yourself with an EPA-approved repellent and dress in long sleeves and pants. So I know it's hard in the summer to do that when it's so hot, but it will help protect your skin a lot. And then another question I get a lot is, what types of active ingredients do we recommend in a repellent? DEET is by far the most effective, but I know not everybody likes DEETs. They don't like the smell, they don't like the feel of it. So picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, and IR3535 are good ones to look for too. And you can find these on the label at the bottom of the can. Just look for active ingredient, and if you see those listed, any of these four, then you've got a good one. And then lastly, I've just got some website stuff to go over, but follow us for updates. I post a lot about, what events we're going to be at on our Facebook. I post a lot of great mosquito, just general information on our Facebook, Twitter as well, or X. Sorry, I need to change that logo. And here's our phone number. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And here's my email if you have any questions you want to talk to me specifically. But also, pretty much any question I feel like you would have could be answered by visiting our website. We just redid this a couple of years ago, citrusmosquito.org. It's got our product labels, everything that we use to kill mosquitoes on there. You can read about them. We've got an event calendar. You can see where we're going to be, when our board meetings are, things like that. Um, what else? I've got, if you want to request a presentation, you can do that on there. We've got our employment opportunities. So if we have a job opening, it's going to be posted on there. Oh, virtual open house, that's a big one. So every year we host an open house in person, where you can come in and see our equipment, talk to our employees. But if you can't make it in person or you're just so anxious, you want to get online and just look at our virtual open house right away. Yeah, I go through our entire office department, everything, and go into way more detail than what I talked about today. So definitely check that out if you want more information. And here is what our website looks like. Again, citrusmosquito.org. You can put in a service request on here as well. So if you don't want to call our office, if you have a mosquito problem, or you want to do it after hours, you can come right here, click this, and put in a service request online. Here's our events calendar. Submit a feedback comments. If you've had a great experience with us, then let us know. That would really make our day. And here is what the service request form looks like. So we do need some information from you. We need your name, we need your address. And then when you're having a mosquito problem, if there's anything for us to be aware of, like dogs or gate codes, you could put that in there. And then we'll get that as an email. And when we come in, we'll process that and we'll get somebody out to help you. And again, you can look at our product labels. Everything that we use can be found in our documents section. Here's that link to the virtual open house right there from our front page. Request a presentation and then check out any job openings that we have. Here is what the front of the virtual open house looks like. And so that you just scroll through and interact with the presentation. There's a bunch of pictures and text and videos as well. And a big feature that's on our website that I feel like not a lot of people know about is this treatment map. So you can see our treatment map and see our daily scheduled ULV treatments. So you can see which ones we have scheduled and which ones we've done recently. So you can see if we've been in your neighborhood lately or if we're planning to be in your neighborhood that evening. I think it updates around 3 p.m. every day. Right now it's January. We aren't really sending out the fog trucks. But in June or July or August, this would be definitely updated daily with new treatment zones. And with that, I thank you. Here are my acknowledgements. Gotta have that in the presentation, but I'm gonna go back to the contact page. I'm gonna link our website. I'm gonna, write all this information below in the description box as well. And with that, thank you for joining me today and for watching our video. Look out for future ones. Hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when we come out with a new video. Check out our other videos, especially the beekeeping ones. I worked really hard on those. So yeah, and if you have any questions, let us know. If you have a mosquito problem, let us know. We're here for you. We're very transparent. We'll answer any questions you have. That's literally my whole job is to tell you about what we do and give you more information. So please utilize me and let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I would be happy to talk to you about them. All right, thanks.